Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We are live at lunch. Happy to see you here. We are 2 days away from Trump taking the oath of office again and becoming our president again. So if you're feeling any kind of way about that, if you're feeling anxious or angry or upset, I'm here for it. Come join us in this live today. We're going to talk about what we're expecting to happen on Monday once Trump takes office, what is already starting to happen around immigration and immigrants. So I'm here also to answer any questions that you might have. We're going to talk today about the immigration raid that happened in California last week in Bakersfield. We'll also talk about rumors for Chicago on Tuesday, January 21st, and we'll give some updates about the Laken-Riley Act that is winding its way through Congress. Might even see some more movement over the weekend. So welcome. Soy la abogada Abigail, abogada de inmigración. Estoy aquí para hablar sobre los cambios que esperamos, los cambios malos, lo que esperamos para lunes cuando Trump toma su lugar de nuevo en la Casa Blanca. Y vamos a estar hablando hoy sobre redadas que sucedieron en California, redadas que según se escuchan rumores que van a tener en Chicago el martes, el 21 de enero, perdón. Y vamos a hablar de legislación de Laken-Riley, que todavía está en proceso, y cómo va a afectar los inmigrantes. So welcome everyone that is joining us. Let's start by talking about updates to the Laken-Riley Act. We've been following those updates for the last week as it's been winding its way through the Senate. It passed the House. This is legislation named after Laken-Riley because she was murdered by an undocumented immigrant. That immigrant just so happened to have been prior to the murder, to have been arrested for shoplifting. So this legislation, it's not funny, but it makes me laugh because it just shows the logic of America right now is that immigrants are bad, immigrants are killing people, and especially the immigrants who steal things. We need to stop them before they end up murdering people. So as a result, this legislation came about. They tried to pass it last year. It didn't pass, obviously, and so now it's having a resurgence now that Trump is taking office. And this legislation would force ICE to detain and not allow to be released anyone who has any kind of theft arrest. Doesn't need to even be a conviction. It can just be an accusation of theft, and something even as minor as shoplifting, which if you know anything about immigration law, you know that all theft offenses, if you have a conviction for a theft offense, you are not going to be getting out of immigration detention. Those serious ones, not shoplifting previously, but any serious theft offense is either going to be an aggravated felony if it's over a certain amount, or it's going to be a crime involving moral turpitude. So a judge is not going to be allowed, even if they wanted to give you a bond. So this is really just attacking shoplifters, which, people say, well, they shouldn't be shoplifting. Well, that really just shows privilege because anyone who has ever tried to have been in a situation where they need to feed their family and they didn't have money, usually this is going to impact people who are low income. I don't condone shoplifting, obviously, but I think that it's a very privileged position to say, well, I would never shoplift. You've never been in a situation where you had a need, obviously, and couldn't meet that need other than stealing. So this legislation passed the House. It's been through the Senate. They are starting to put on a couple of different amendments to it, so some changes to it. It's very interesting the way that these bills how they wind through and what they end up becoming, what they start out as and what they actually end up becoming. So it's interesting to watch, like, for example, a day or two ago, one of the senators added an amendment that would include a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers and TPS too. So it's very interesting that they try to kind of like sweeten the deal a little bit. Like, let's try to get more support for this bill to make it become law so that we can do damage to anyone who has shoplifted or been accused of shoplifting, but sweeten it by giving a potential pathway for Dreamers and TPS. Dreamers have been like this political pawn for the last 25 years, ever since I started helping immigrants in 2000. I started as a legal assistant in 2000, became an attorney in 2010. We've been hearing about Congress needs to do something for the Dreamers. And then so finally, Obama did something in 2012. He created DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And ever since then, we've had this, like, is there going to be something better, like residency or citizenship? Because even though it is status, it's still Dreamers are still considered undocumented, or those who have DACA are still undocumented because they don't have. It's just a deferral of removal. So it's like it's not really status. In fact, I just had a client in renewing his DACA today, and he was like, "Can I join the military?" And I'm like, he said, "I heard I could," and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure you can't." So we looked it up together, and even it said there, like, DACA holders are not considered, they're considered undocumented individuals, and so they're not eligible to join the military. I'm going to pause here to see if we have any questions, and then we'll get back to talking about the topics that are on the agenda for today. The question, Nadar, the immigration judge denied your friend's case based on the respondent not having credible evidence. What does that mean? You might be talking about a negative credibility finding. So one of the things that the judge is required to do is decide whether the person is telling the truth or maybe exaggerating something. And so a negative credibility finding is one of the hardest things to overcome on appeal. Basically, if the judge thinks you're lying, it's going to be really hard to get an appeal approved for that. So you'll definitely want to talk with an attorney about that. We give a free discovery call process. Our number is 541-653-8899. A couple more questions, and then we'll get back to what I was talking about. Gans, how long does it take? Does a marriage-based green card take to get accepted? Those are current, depends on where you live. We're in Oregon. Most of our cases go through Portland District Office. Those are taking about 6 to 9 months. We do anticipate that there will be a return to interviews for all adjustment of status cases. And so that will definitely delay the case longer. But I still think you should probably be able to get it done within a year. All right. Estuvimos platicando sobre el Lake and Riley Act. Está todavía en proceso de llegar a ser ley. Va a afectar personas que tienen arrestos de cualquier tipo de robo, aún incluyendo los casos mínimos como un hurto. Esto llegó a ser parte de nuestra ley porque había una joven que fue asesinada por un inmigrante indocumentado, y ese inmigrante había estado arrestado antes para hurto. Entonces ahora se puede notar de dónde vino la conexión entre hurto y asesino. Entonces, el Congreso quiere hacer una ley para que personas que están arrestados o cargados con un tipo de robo, no importa qué tan mínimo, van a ser sujetos a una detención mandatoria. Esto quiere decir que un juez no puede dejarle salir bajo fianza, va a estar peleando su caso de detención su caso de deportación mientras está detenido. Esto va a afectar personas que tienen arrestos o convicciones de robo. Ahora ese ley propuesto, creo que se dice, todavía no es ley, pero va en proceso de llegar a ser ley. Entonces está ahorita con el Senado. Ellos están agregando a enmiendas a ese ley propuesta, y una de las enmiendas que están pensando hacer tendría un paseo a la residencia para personas que tienen DACA o TPS. Entonces, esto es una decisión buena. La ley sería muy mala para personas que tienen arrestos, pero tal vez sería muy buena para personas que tienen DACA y TPS. Entonces, vamos a estar revisando. Tal vez va a haber voto este fin de semana. Tal vez va a ser una de las primeras leyes que firma el presidente Trump. Yo creo que si ayuda a los Dreamers, estoy contenta, pero estoy también a la vez deprimida para las personas que tienen cargos de robo, y no importa qué tan mínimo, puede ser hurto también. También estoy aquí para contestar preguntas. In español o inglés. Daniel, my immigration case was dismissed. Can they still come after me? Thank you. So I'm assuming you're talking about an immigration case in immigration court. That's fantastic that they dismissed it. Most dismissals are without prejudice, so you want to look on your order whether it says dismissed with or without prejudice. If it is without prejudice, that means that the government could come back and refile a notice to appear, and with new reasons why they think that you should be deported. If it's with prejudice, then they're not allowed to reopen that case again. The likelihood, though, of them reopening it, as long as nothing changes, like obviously if you go and commit a crime, they could definitely reopen it. But if that's not happening, if nothing else changes, like there's no applications that get denied on your behalf, then the likelihood of them reopening is pretty small. So congratulations that you got that dismissed. The negative thing about dismissal is that once, like for example, if it's based on an asylum and you have a work permit that's through that asylum application, once your case is dismissed with the immigration court, you're not going to be eligible anymore to renew your work permit. You'd have to refile with the asylum office if you want to pursue an asylum case with them and get a work permit that way. So that's kind of the negative thing. There's also a way to administratively close a removal proceedings, and that would allow you to still continue with a work permit. Complicated stuff, but I would say that especially given the coming changes in our administration, it's better to have a closed removal proceedings than an open one. Allison Rose, your husband is a dreamer. He has his DACA. How do you get started for the green card? His ability to get a green card is going to depend on the way he entered and how many entries he has. We usually recommend that dreamers use advanced parole to travel and then be able to get their green card through marriage, unless they can show that their first entry was with a visa. So you'll definitely want to talk with an attorney about that. We're not sure what's going to happen with DACA and with advanced parole for DACA once Trump takes office. So make sure to give us a call, 541-653-8899, if you're not already talking with an attorney. Pink person, do we think the military parole in place program will stay? You want to help your parents? That's fantastic. Thank you for considering service to the U.S. And I think that it will stay. Trump tried to attack it the first time around, and he found it was met with a lot of resistance. So I think that it's one of those programs that has a lot of support. Obviously, we want to support our servicemen and women. And the best way to do that is by making sure that their parents are safe. So I think that program will stay here. We will see a lot of changes starting Monday. So Monday, we have heard that there are about 300 executive orders that President Trump will be signing on Monday, and that about a quarter of them are immigration related. So I don't know if those numbers are accurate or, if they're close. I'm going to take my whole day Monday is going to be watching for the signing of those executive orders and dissecting them and explaining them here on social media. So definitely be following us for more information about that. And we'll see, how things develop next week. We're also going to be following rumors about ICE raids. So there was an ICE raid in Bakersfield last week that took about 78, I think, individuals, caused a lot of fear, a lot of just unnecessary chaos. And Tom Homan, who is taking over a position as border czar, it's actually a newly created position. He mentioned a month ago in a rally in Chicago that they intended to start ICE raids in Chicago. So that's where the rumors are coming from, that ICE is gearing up to start an ICE raid in Chicago. Chicago, the city of Chicago is a sanctuary city. The state of Illinois is a sanctuary state. But it's really important to understand that doesn't mean that ICE can't operate there. It's the federal government. They can, basically do whatever they want, unfortunately, to an extent. And the fact that Chicago is a sanctuary city just means that the local police will not be helping ICE in any of their efforts. Same thing with the state. The state will not be, does not require that their police officers participate in any kind of removal. So, estamos hablando también de cambios que esperamos cambios para empezando lunes, cuando Trump toma la oficina de presidencia. Hemos escuchado que él va a firmar como 300 órdenes ejecutivas y que como 25% de esos se van a tratar de inmigración. No sabemos si eso es cierto, pero yo voy a tomar todo el día esperando noticias y leyéndolas y explicándolas aquí en las redes sociales. Entonces hay que estar escuchando y poniendo atención para saber cómo va a afectar. También vamos a estar siguiendo información sobre redadas. Había una redada en Bakersfield, California. Agarraron como casi 80 personas y eso fue horrible para esas personas y su familia. Había mucho miedo y caos. Había también protestas. Me gustó mucho que había esa respuesta de apoyo de la comunidad. Y según otros rumores, hay información de que van a empezar a hacer redadas en Chicago el martes, el 21 de enero. Esos rumores creo que vienen de una, no fue plática, había un grupo, ¿cómo se dice rally? Había una junta y Tom, el señor, se me va su nombre, el señor que va a ser sobre la frontera, Tom Homan, dijo que iban a empezar de hacer redadas y que ese junto de personas estaba en Chicago, Illinois. Entonces, él dijo que las redadas iban a empezar en Chicago después de que Trump tomó su lugar. Así que ahí es de donde vienen los rumores. Allison Rose, I think you had the question about DACA. Is he at risk for being deported? While his DACA is valid, he is not at risk of being deported. You have a daughter together. That's awesome. If you guys are married, you should definitely talk with an immigration attorney about getting permanent legal status. We don't know what's going to happen with DACA. I just was announcing that the Lake and Riley Act now has an amendment that would provide a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers and TPS. So maybe that would help. But we have literally for like 25 years now been talking about a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers. So I try not to hold my breath about those things. And if someone has a legal entry or used DACA, advanced parole, to get a legal entry, we recommend that people use that in order to, if they're married to a U.S. citizen, they use that process to get their green card. Just because it's a temporary status, it's deferred action, which means that we are waiting. We're not going to take action, deport you now, even though we could. So it's never like a sure thing. Oh, Network Digital. Hola, abogada, ¿en qué estado están ayudando? Entonces, la ley de inmigración es ley federal y podemos ayudar a personas de cualquier estado. Tenemos una oficina, una oficina física en el estado de Oregon, en el condado de Lane, Springfield, Oregon. Pero tomamos casos de todos los estados y también tenemos personas trabajando para nosotros en otros estados y otros países. Gracias por la pregunta. Sandra, that's great that you're waiting on your T visa approval. We're hearing that those are taking about a year and a half. You've done your biometrics. You just need to keep waiting for that. Make sure you hold on to those receipt notices and be able to show those to anyone who asks what your status is. Your brother's been waiting for a decision on the N400 after the interview. It's been 4 months now. That's not too long. Sometimes they have so when they approve the N400, they will also schedule it for an interview, schedule it for swearing in, oath ceremony. So sometimes they might have, not have any openings for that. So maybe that's the delay. I don't know. If you have any concerns about it, definitely have an immigration attorney and take a look at it. They might be like reviewing the file or having a supervisor look at it. Daniel, thanks for your comment. He says, thank you for the answer and have a nice day. Keep fighting the good cause. We are going to keep fighting the good cause, guys. We've been here before. We did 4 years with Trump. It was hard. We hated it. It was bad for our country, but here we are again. So still there are enough people in our country who believe that he is good for our country. And unfortunately, they believe the rhetoric that immigrants are bad for our country. We here at Molina Immigration believe that immigrants make America great. And so that's why we do what we do. Salivi, you have DACA, but you were detained by ICE 6 years ago and you have an open immigration case. Should you worry? Definitely be talking with your immigration attorney about what the strategy is with an open deportation case. I don't know if they're doing any applications like maybe cancellation of removal, but if there's anything you could do to maybe get that case dismissed, that would be my recommendation. Eni dice que llegué a USA buscando asilo, me dieron un parol. Soy dominicano, me casé con ciudadana. ¿Qué me recomienda? Pues felicidades en su matrimonio. Personas que tienen un parol pueden arreglar su residencia, pueden ajustar su estatus para la residencia permanente. Entonces recomiendo ocupar los servicios de un abogado para presentar su caso de residencia y felicidades. Sally, you also married a U.S. citizen 2 years ago. Definitely recommend talking with an immigration attorney. That you're probably eligible for your green card, depending on your immigration history. It all depends on your entries, exits, and the way that you entered. User 2991, what about an ESTA visa? What about it? These are ways that people enter from certain countries. It's called a visa waiver. We have an agreement with certain countries. They let us in without a visa, so we let them in without a visa. It usually is like European, more wealthy countries. Some of the Asian countries as well can enter on an ESTA. So it's limited to 90 days. You're not supposed to stay beyond that. There are some exceptions to that. I don't love it. I'd rather that people entered on a tourist visa if they're eligible to get one, but not everybody wants to take the time to do that, or did it and got denied for some reason, or is worried that they'll be denied for some reason. Man, lots of people coming on here saying that they got their removal proceedings dismissed. You must have been working with an attorney to do that, because it's not an easy process to get things dismissed. That's great that those attorneys were on it. You should send a thank you gift to your attorney, or at least a thank you note. I don't think that the new administration is going to be reopening those cases. They're going to have their hands full with new cases. So if they already closed it, unless something changes in your situation, like you're out committing crimes or filing applications that get denied, it's unlikely that those will be reopened. Dice, hola abogada, necesito abrir mi caso con inmigración. Soy del estado de Washington, en Seattle, Washington. Me encanta la ciudad de Seattle. Nos encantaría hablar con usted. Llámanos 541-653-8899. Visítanos en las redes sociales. Síguenos para noticias sobre los cambios que esperamos pronto. Sophie's asking, when executive orders are issued affecting immigration processes, how long will they take effect? They usually take effect immediately. That's not always true. I guess when DACA happened, it depends. That's it. I'll give you the best attorney answer. It depends. It depends on if they can implement it immediately. Some things require a rollout. Like, for example, when DACA was announced in June of 2012, they gave USCIS like a 2-month window to get the forms ready. So it didn't take effect until August 2012 when people could start applying. But it just depends. It depends if there's something needs to be done to get ready for it. She-Girl, you had a miracle case. You're a butterfly. You got a cat deferral. Those cases are where you have to show that you're going to be tortured in the country, your country of birth. So you got approved. You are super lucky. Technically, the government can reopen those and take you back before a judge to decide if it's still dangerous to take you to deport you. Most of the time, it's not going to be overturned, but it is technically a possibility. But you have a work permit. Keep renewing your work permit. Keep that on you at all times. I'm going to recommend anyone with any status, even my husband, who is a U.S. citizen, to keep that proof of status on you in case anyone asks you. It's just, you shouldn't have to, and technically you don't have to, but would you rather be detained and have the hassle of all of that, or be able to just show your status and avoid that? Liv says, so if Trump is a convicted felon, can an immigrant who committed fraud by falsifying be pardoned? You would think that, yeah, you would think so, but apparently there's double standards for presidents, you know. Oh, Kamal, I'm really sorry to hear your spouse died. You have a work permit, travel document received, but the VAWA 360 is pending. You might be eligible to, I don't know if you also filed the I-45 at the same time. Make sure you're talking with your attorney about that. Yeah, Elohia, people with records, and if you're caught in the crossfire, that's where it's sad. But yeah, exactly. Recuerden que van a buscar a la gente que ya tengan récord, empiezan a preguntar a la gente alrededor. Ya, eso es algo que hemos escuchado, que incluso que inmigración quiere abrir o quiere empezar un número de teléfono donde puede marcar para hacer reporte de personas que están aquí indocumentados, y incluso tal vez van a ofrecer un precio, ¿cómo se dice? Un reward para dar información. Entonces, vamos a ver qué tan feo va a empezar a ser todo. Todas las personas que están en contra a los inmigrantes, si van a empezar de echar en problemas personas que están aquí documentados también. Silver, can you have screenshots of your documents to show proof? I don't see why that wouldn't be okay. I don't love telling people to take their original documents with them, because what if they're lost or stolen or something? So, Attorney Martinez, do you want to come on live? I'm almost finishing with this, but I watch your lives all the time. I'm going to invite you. I don't know if you're still watching, but I've never brought somebody on. I don't know. I'm pressing it, but I don't know if it's working. Is the U visa hard to get? So the difficulty with the U visa is actually not hard to get. A lot of people are eligible for it, and the challenge is that the Immigration Service can only approve up to 10,000 each year. And so because so many people are eligible for it, because so many people have been victims of violent crimes, there's now a backlog of like 15, 20 years, something like that. There's really no way to know how long it's going to take. The great thing is that a couple years ago, immigration noticed that this was happening and decided to at least start giving a work permit. Those are taking about 2 years to get once you file the U visa. Johnny, great question. Do you support illegal immigration or strictly only legal immigration? I'm not sure how anybody would support illegal immigration. I don't know actually how you actively do that. We support immigrants. So we are here to help anyone who wants to stay here, wants to be able to get legal status here, wants to become a U.S. citizen, wants to bring someone to the U.S. from another place. Johnny, I can tell that you are not pro-immigrant. And I definitely don't agree with your opinion that people are lazy if they come here illegally. What's the most effective way to qualify for advanced parole? Depends on what your status is. If you have DACA, this is one thing we're concerned will be changed under Trump is DACA advanced parole. The best way that we have, the most approvals we've gotten is usually for the health of a family member. So like maybe an elderly family member that they haven't seen, that they want to be able to see before they might pass away. So we get a doctor's note confirming their medical status, and then a birth certificate, sometimes a series of birth certificates to show the connection, the relationship to that individual. Elogia, no entiendo su pregunta. Dice que pienso si va a dar información, debería de explicar un poco más por qué y más si es abogada. Eso es la dificultad de venir aquí en vivo. Están haciendo preguntas, no tengo todos los detalles. Si hace una consulta con nosotros, tarda por lo menos como 30 minutos para tomar toda la información. Entonces, algo breve, un comentario breve, a veces no es posible explicar todas las opciones y aún menos cuando es algo, pues todo de inmigración es complicado, pero cuando una situación es complicada, no sería buena idea dar consejos legales en las redes sociales. Por eso esta información es general y recomiendo hablar con un abogado de inmigración para confirmar. All right, guys. So we are going to be watching for executive orders signing on Monday. We are going to be watching the Lake and Riley Act, how that continues to take shape over the weekend and early next week. We are going to be watching for raids across the country. And more than anything, we are going to be helping our clients have safety, security, peace of mind, all of those things that we believe that immigrants deserve because immigrants make America great. Gracias a todos que han estado con nosotros. Vamos a estar revisando todas las noticias el lunes con las los órdenes ejecutivas, también información de redadas y la ley propuesta de Lake and Riley. So, síganos aquí, vamos a estar siguiendo trabajar con nuestros clientes para que puedan tener un estatus legal, un sentido de paz y seguridad, porque esto es lo que creemos que los inmigrantes merecen. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Thanks everybody for being with us, and we will see you next time live at lunch. Bye.